welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We're so excited today to bring you our next episode of On Friendship, where we talk about a Hallmark or Hallmark-like movie today, where we talk about it from themes of friendship. And I'm Rachel, and Alysa is here.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. So this is our fourth episode of On Friendship, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Look at us rocking and rolling.
I know. It's pretty good. Pretty
like
impressive. Yeah. And it was interesting because last month we had, our episode on Country Wedding, and it got the studio that made the movie gave our video on YouTube a copyright strike. And I was just what is going on? Like, there was no copyrighted material of any kind. Like, I was so mad. I'm like, now you're not even allowed to talk about movies on YouTube. Like, what is happening? And
oh my goodness. I thought you were going to say, and then the company that made it was like, hey, good job.
Yeah. Well, so I guess what happened, I figured this is what had happened, but I think the people were just being kind of a little bit lazy and rushed. And they just saw, oh, this is a long video, because we tend to do a little bit longer. And yeah.
Who, us? No way.
Yeah. And I think they just saw, 80 minutes or whatever. And so it's must be the full movie, not realizing it was just a podcast. And
Rachel, that's funny, because our podcasts are just as long as the movies.
Yeah, I know. And it was funny because, I mean, it was sad / funny, but
yeah,
I wrote a very fiery email to these people. I'm like, how dare you give us a copyright strike for this? Because of course YouTube was completely useless.
Sad face.
They're like, I'm sorry, we're sorry, but you have to get the copyrighted material removed. And I'm like, there is no copyrighted material. What?
Good gravy.
I was so mad. And so I had to contact.
We didn't even sing any of the songs, even.
I know. And so I had to contact the company, and I'd been like, you need to get this removed immediately. This is unjust, unfair. I was so mad. And I'm like, we covered tons of your movies. We will not cover them in the future if you, which is probably
snap.
True, but hey.
You're
anyway,
like, listen.
So she sent me this email. She's like, I'm so sorry. And she released the strike. And,
thank you.
Yeah. And then she proceeded. She's like, this is what I do for my job. Da, da, da. And she proceeded to describe her job. And I'm like, okay, feeling a little bit like and she's like, the first mistake I've made in 4 years. I'm so sorry. And I'm like,
oh, well, that's good record, though.
Yeah.
She's got a good record. Well, maybe since she took the strike down, we'll let it kind of slide.
So just don't do it again.
Yeah, seriously.
Anyway, so that was exciting.
Especially when it comes to friendship movies. Come on.
I know.
There's not as many, and we need to talk about them.
I know.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, oh, great. Now this is what YouTube has come down to, that you can't even talk about movies without it getting a copyright strike. And
so many people would be in trouble. Let's everyone.
I know.
Shut it down.
So anyway, that was eventful. Other than that, how was your August? Did you have a nice end of summer?
Oh, goodness. As a college professor, August hits and it's like getting smacked in the face with a book or a bat or something, because it just wakes you up and you're like, oh, it's time for school. And so all of August is getting back and getting ready to go to school. But I did visit Cincinnati Zoo to see one of my favorites, Hippo, the Fiona the Hippo at Cincinnati Zoo. So that was really exciting. And I adopted a dog.
Aww.
His name is Finnegan, and he's a little pom mix. And he's so good when I'm recording, because right now he's laying just a few feet away. But as long as he can hear my fantastic voice, apparently, he's okay.
That's really, really cute.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
Oh, well, yeah, so I had a busy August. I went to D23, went out to Anaheim.
Yeah.
So that was exhausting but fun. And then I felt like I needed a vacation from my vacation when I got home because I was
Always.
so, yeah. But luckily I didn't get too sick because, they always talk about the con flu that you,
Yeah.
post-con flu. So,
Any conference, yeah,
yeah.
seriously.
But it was fun because while I was there, I got a chance to meet up with a ton of people, or not a ton of people, with a number of people from that I've gotten to know on Twitter. And in the sort of Disney fandom and animation, because that's my passion. And it was fun to just sort of be reminded that those relationships, they may seem sort of ephemeral, but they're actually they actually do matter, I think, to people. And so that was a good little reminder to me. And it was a lot of fun to see people that I only know from their Twitter handle be like, oh, that's your face, that's what you look like.
No, that's fun. And like, I've been sick for the last week, and so like being on social media or online and interacting with people I know or whoever, I think it helps me feel like I'm still connected to life.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then to me, there's people that you talk to very frequently. There's people like, we haven't met face to face. I mean, we've seen each other online, but I mean, we've never met. And so it's just one of those things, like, you can have those friendships, but it's even cooler when you get to have that face to face interaction, for sure.
So it was an adventure. Well, today for the podcast, we're crossing the aisle. I was trying to think of something that felt really friendship oriented. And we had just done our podcast about for top 5, which was in August. The top 5 podcast was top 5 movies with Hall stars that aren't on Hallmark. And this was one of Emma's picks, Emma from Hallmark. And so I thought, this movie really does have a lot to do with friendship. So we're talking about Love at the Christmas Table.
Yes.
And so before we kind of dive into it, what were your sort of overall thoughts about this movie?
I think that it has some similar or typical friendship tropes that lead to romance. And there's not necessarily anything that's wrong with it. But in comparison to Do I Dare Say It, because I don't want to get a copyright strike.
Yeah, that's right.
But Country Wedding I liked because the two were friends from the beginning. And in this one, I don't think they were ever really friends. I don't even know if they liked each other very much. But then it sort of was like, okay, yep, this is... But then maybe the reason why they kind of didn't like each other is because they loved each other.
Right. Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that because I think it's an entertaining movie. I think
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think it does a lot of things right, but I do kind of feel like they're not a very good couple.
Yeah, no.
Shouldn't be together. I think it's kind of a toxic relationship, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's cute. It's really cute. So
so sometimes we enjoy those toxic relationships, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So this movie, it goes through, he's the male character is narrating the beginning, at least, of the movie, and which is a little unusual. There's we'll talk about some of the differences that make this definitely not a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
It was 2012, which is when Hallmark was a little more PG-13, but still, just the amount of drinking alone, that would not
be one of the differences.
Hallmark channel. Yeah. You're not gonna have teenagers getting drunk to rum cake. Drunk in quotation marks in a Hallmark movie. That would never happen. But anyway, it's basically about these friends, Kat and Sam, who, starting when she's just lost her mom, when she's a little girl, her mom dies when she's 4, and they start going over to their friend Evie is her name, played by Leah Thompson.
Woot, woot.
And yeah, and they start going to her house for Christmas, and it becomes this sort of tradition that they go. And so you get to see 14 non-consecutive Christmases in this story. And this is directed by a woman, Rachel Lee Goldenberg. And
Woot, woot.
yep. And it stars Danica McKellar.
Yeah. I liked the cast. I'll say that.
Yeah. And it has Dustin Mulligan as the male lead, and he's fine. He's
the reason why I like him, he's from the comedy TV show Schitt's Creek.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's in it. So that's why I was like, ooh, when you sent me the preview for it, I was like, yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah. And then Scott Patterson from Gilmore Girls fame.
Yes.
Plays Danica's father. And so, yeah, there's kind of a side relationship going on between him and Leah Thompson character. So, yeah, it starts when she is 4. Her mom dies, and Sam and Kat's dads start a furniture business together.
Yep.
And so they build this table, which is really kind of like a what do they call it? It was like a side table. It wasn't.
I mean, it looks like. Here's the thing: when I saw it, I was like, "That's not normal size table."
Yeah.
And I realized they're making it for Sam and Kat, and it totally reminds me, which we see in some of the Christmas dinners. It's the kids' table at Thanksgiving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the kids' table at Christmas. That's what the table is. It's the kids' table.
Yeah. Yeah, but even hardly even. I mean, it's real. It's almost like a bedside table. I mean, it's really small.
Yeah,
it's like a bench.
It's not a card table like lots of families have. But
right.
Yeah, it was a little bit longer, but it's shorter, and yeah, it was pretty small. And they just put it in the middle of this room, and I was like, there's so much acres of free land in this room.
Yeah.
Feel free to make a bigger one. But they do kind of kid, because it's not exactly the best table. They're like, well, it's our first go at it or whatever. And I thought that was cute.
Yeah. And some of these are really quick in the movie, some of these years, and then others spend a little bit longer. So what did you think of this format of going through the years?
There's some things that I liked about it, but I also feel like we miss out on character development by only seeing them at Christmas. And so I thought what they might be doing when we started the movie, we might get through some of the Christmases until they were adults, and then we see a little bit more of what was going on, because that's all we see. There's very little that is filmed outside Leah Thompson's house, right? There is a little bit, but so I liked it, but at a certain point I was hoping for some other character development, because I didn't fully pick up on the seriousness of the relationship between Kat's dad and Leah Thompson's character, and then I was like, oh, okay, I see, it's getting real serious, those sorts of things. And I think that we only see them essentially. It seems like a party, like a few hours. It might be a whole day. Who knows? It could be a weekend. But it seems like a 2-hour dinner. Like, you go to someone's house, like, to celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's like a few hours. And then it's like, oh, how much can you learn about them in that time? So although I appreciate it, where we get the history of as children and sort of what happened, like he went to college and she stayed. Yeah. I just wanted to learn a little bit more about them away from that table.
Yeah, I basically agree. It does feel a little bit hard to believe that this that they would sort of carry this flame for each other, and only because some of the years it's like he never called her back after this party, and then other years it seems like, oh, maybe they did have something happening, and I don't know. I do agree that it's kind of novel, and it works. I can go with it, but it has its downsides for sure, as far
Oh,
as the
for
character
sure.
development. Yeah.
And one of the, and you can tell me, Alysa, put a pin in it. We're going to talk about that later. But it makes me think of one of my critiques of their relationship in terms of the friendship, because in a way, because her mom died when she was 4, and then the two dads came together, it sort of built this built-in like extended family in a way. So he and, you know, Sam and Kat are always going to be together when their families are together. And that is a great way to build friendships. Like, how many of us are friends with, you know, our parents' friends' kids? You know, like, it's, I mean,
Hmm.
it's, these are ways that friendships and families build.
Yeah.
Completely on board with that. But one of the things that I think it does is that, because we only saw the dinner each year, that there was this expectation that they were always going to be there for each other, or put so much pressure on this one night, like something had to happen, or when he brings a date and then like she's upset about it, and then she's has a date but then that guy gets married to someone else. It's like, you know, there's so many huge transitions happening at this 2-hour dinner. But
Right.
then I think that's part of the problem with their relationship is you can't assume that people are going to wait around for you.
Hmm.
And so we can't expect that to be the case, that he can't expect to come home because he's the one that's gone away and be like, oh, she'll just be here waiting for me. That is so not
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
additionally, there's more than one day in a year. So it's kind of like the relationships that spend birthdays,
Well,
anniversaries, and Valentine's days, like maintaining the relationships. You have to do more.
yeah. Well, it also doesn't really make sense. I mean, if you had just uh if you just had a really big, dramatic kiss with
Yeah.
the person that you'd had this history with, there's no way you would not call that person for a whole year. Like, there's no way
Yeah.
you wouldn't. I don't know. Like, that's the one that especially is like, what happened? But
But there's also, you don't have to call. I mean, text, Facebook,
I
email,
mean,
Snapchat. I
2012,
mean,
some of that
but
wasn't there,
still,
but still.
I mean, Facebook was okay.
Yeah, Facebook
Snapchat
was.
wasn't. Facebook definitely was.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, come on.
Yeah, and so, but also, so EB, this woman played by Leah Thompson, she is in love with Kat's dad,
Who we'll call
Tom.
Luke.
Yeah,
Because
Luke,
that's who he
basically.
was from Gilmore Girls, always
Yeah,
and forever.
who
Sorry.
wouldn't who wouldn't be in love with Scott Patterson?
Yes.
And so when he gets married to Kat's mom, she kind of it's like a Miss Havisham thing. And they talk about it actually in the movie. And
Yeah.
she just kind of freezes, and she decides to sort of celebrate Christmas all year long. And
Yeah.
so this party is sort of
It's a
uh
tradition.
yeah, it's tradition, but she has her Christmas lights up all year. She has her everything.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's a kind of an interesting situation. She also makes this drink, this shot, basically. She has shots, and so, yeah, there's way more alcohol in this movie than you would ever have in a Hallmark movie, that's for sure.
Yeah, I
Um
was like, wait, isn't this isn't Hallmark? I had to say that to myself 2 or 3
yeah.
times just to
Yeah.
remind myself.
Yeah. So then age 10, they sneak this rum cake, and they're all pretending to be drunk, and the two dads are like, should we tell them there's no alcohol in the cake? And so that's kind of fun. And then
Yeah.
13, she's reading, he's kind of bored. So he tries to kiss her. And she puts a fork in his leg. She's like, get away from me.
Well, I feel like that's like definitely the age, like when you're forced together, you know, or like you've known each other since you were 4, and it's like that's a very uncomfortable age. It's middle school.
Yeah.
You're going through the changes,
Yeah.
body, this and the other thing. And he said, what did he say? Okay, he might have been bored, but I think it goes back to this, like, just assuming that that she was there, and this, like, because he's like, we should stop kidding ourselves. And like, I'm like, who says that at 13? And that's when he tries to kiss her, saying that they like each other. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I will stab you in the leg instead.
Yeah. It was pretty good. And so then they jump up to 18. And so this is when Danica enters Danica and Dustin enter the scene playing. And so their decision to try to make Danica appear 18 years old was to give her the worst bangs ever.
Yeah, that was probably one of the worst parts of the movie, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, this probably won't last long.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. And they should have kept the teenage actress like for that one more time, I think.
Yeah,
because it was just like, yeah, right. But because she was in Danica McKellar when this was released, I'm not sure when it was filmed, but she was 37 when this was released. Yeah. So
she's just 20 years younger. No worries.
Ridiculous. And so that didn't really work, those bangs. But that she says, just don't ever tell me who I do and don't like in this world. Mm-hmm. And because he's kind of a hipster, I guess you'd say.
Bad at it, like a try too hard hipster.
Wannabe hipster.
Yes, there you go. Precisely.
And so one fun thing I think that this movie does that you don't often see in Christmas movies is that it's very sort of aware of Christmas movies, and they start going through sort of this box of Christmas movies. And, and they eat actual rum cake. They're very, very excited. And they end up watching Christmas Carol, and they end up holding hands, falling asleep. It's very snuggly. It's very cute. But then their parents write Feliz Navidad on their faces.
And she's Santa and he's a reindeer.
Yeah. I mean, this is one gag that could never be done on me. Like, if somebody just touches the door, well, yeah, even just the door, and I hear a cring, I'm up. Yeah. I'm a very soft sleeper.
So you're like, nice try. Yeah. It won't work on me.
I'd have to be under very heavy medication to not be.
Yeah, I'm a pretty good sleeper. So yeah, I would have probably been a Santa.
That's funny. Yes. So then we get to age 19. And they're playing games, and she's newly single. She dated somebody or something like that. It happened. That's really quick. And then 20, she says, what is best in life? And then they go out and have a snowball fight. And like they go through some of these real quick. And then 21 is they sneak underneath the table and walk all the way down so that they can be with the little kids. They want to sit in the little kids table.
Yeah, they want to be back at the table they got when they were 4.
Yeah. So now we're at 22. And so this was an interesting section. I thought you'd have something interesting to say. So Sam's dad tells him, says, you are not wired for contentment. Your life, everything is falling into place, but you can't help but stir up the pot. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, later we find out the dad's like, I said that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good line when she's like, your kids only listen to when you give bad advice.
Yeah, the mom's like, no. But I think what he's saying is like, you know, you went off to college, you come back, but it's almost like the relationship aspect is falling into place, but he's ignoring it. And so that's how I took it, is that pretty much everyone wants Sam and Kat to get together.
I don't know. I kind of looked at it as he's telling his son, like, you're a narcissist. Like, stop it. Like, you are self. And I think that we totally can we can be our own worst enemy in so many ways, that we see
Mm-hmm.
something's happy happening, and we get scared of it,
Yeah.
and we sort of self-protect.
Yeah.
We don't want to get hurt, and so we're not allowing ourselves to feel all the joy, because
Yeah.
we kind of worry that
Well,
I don't know.
Well, and I think narcissists might be a little bit more like they're not going to show you that, but they are going to boast about how happy they are and how everything is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we're missing the opportunity to learn more about the characters, because I want to see what he was like away from home.
Uh-huh.
Is he happy away from home? Is he doing it because he doesn't want to be stuck in this town and in this job at the family business? Does, like, I want more of that, because I think it would bring a little bit more authenticity, but it would also help us understand why is he making the decisions that he is when he is at this party.
Yeah, and
Because in some ways it's like he looks down at Kat about what she does, and she has no idea, he has no idea what she does.
right. And also he seems to be somewhat self-destructive when it comes to his, from what they say at least, about his, going through jobs, and his
Yeah.
and some of his other habits. And the dad, he says there are two kinds of sacrifices to make for a woman: the good kind and the bad kind. And he says, how do you know which is which? And
Mhm.
he says it kind of depends how the story ends. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's the part that really stuck with me with that other statement he said about not being content, because that's why I was thinking that's why he was focusing on Kat's character, saying like it's like right in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's where I was thinking it was more relationship based. But one of the things might be is he might be the kind of person who is always like, is the grass greener? So
Yeah.
nothing is ever good enough. But he certainly has what appears to be a high level of uncertainty about what's going to happen in life. And so then the only sacrifice he's going to make is if he knows what the outcome is. So in a way, he's not going to sacrifice for Kat unless he knows that she's going to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like that
Well,
he
yeah.
like she's going to be a part of that sacrifice. It's like he needs it to be what's the term I'm thinking of? He needs it to be a sure thing.
Secure. He needs to be sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's, because at this point he's debating, should I take this job? Should I not take this
Yeah.
job? Like, what's going to happen? And I think back at when I was going to college, my brother, he really struggled to find a place, as far as in his college years, that felt right for him. And he went to so many different schools, and
Yeah.
he got so many different college credits, but they were all for different plans and different systems,
Yeah.
and
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
He never actually graduated. And so my perspective coming into it was, I'm just going to get it done. I'm going
Yeah.
to, and I probably, it could have taken longer, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to repeat that sort of mistake. And it was just, I don't know. I just had sort of, where he was, I think, more waiting for the right fit. I
Yeah.
was more the type of, like, I've got to get it done so I don't screw it up. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, if the longer it takes, I gotta finish. I gotta finish.
Yeah.
And that's
Because
very
it's
much
like
my
you can figure
personality.
it's like once you're done, you can figure out what the next step is. And
Yeah.
for perhaps your brother, it might not just be like, what's the right thing? It might be like, how do I fit into this world? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be more invested. You might be more successful. You
Yeah.
might be happier if you're in a space where you feel like you belong.
Right.
And like, and so is it the case then that Sam's character, because he leaves and he comes back, they doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere?
Well, I
Like,
mean, she tells him, she says, you hanging out with me would be like Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. I'm not a pause, a rest stop, or an
yes.
intermission. Take the job.
Mm. I liked
Yeah.
that quote. I was like, tell him. Well, and that's the thing is, like, I wish this was called Love Around Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, it really
So that it could be like, people come home for like a week. I need more.
right.
I want more scenes. I want more
Yeah.
interactions. I want to see more. And so I love the idea, but I guess I'm just left for wanting more, because I think as we talk about who these characters are and them, their relationship, that there's so much more that's missing,
Yeah.
because there's like so much setup, or because that's the thing is, like, if you're unsure about things and you go there and she's like, I'm not a rest stop, I'm not an intermission, take the job. And then he's like, from that 1-2 hour dinner, he's going to be like, well, she doesn't want me here. And so he's going to go make his decision without like thinking or talking with other people or like
Yeah.
talking to her more in depth. And so then it's just like,
I mean, granted, he does talk to his dad, so he does get some advice from different sources, but she says to him, sometimes not making the choice is a choice, which is very
yes,
true.
I
And
agree with that.
and so, she wants a certain degree of kind of commitment from him. And I think that, when you're young, you don't necessarily always immediately think about sort of romance. You're kind of,
Yeah.
sometimes it's just not on your radar. And so I think, I'm not sure how interested either of them is in to romance, but I think that the older people can sort of see, oh, there's something here with these
Yeah.
two, but they don't really see it. And so at this point, she's like, you need to make this commitment. You need to do this. This will make you happy, as opposed to sort of being worried that it's not perfect, or that it's not,
Yeah.
what if I do this and it's the sort of the wrong path. And I guess for me, as far as college, I was like, it was going to be the path no matter what. I was going to
Yeah.
pick my major. I was going to, like, it was just, I was going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying either way is necessarily right. It was just,
Yeah.
that was just a different kind of approach that we
Well,
took mentally.
I think it comes down to like personality, how we're
Yeah.
raised, like all those sorts of things. Like, I don't feel like we got a lot of pressure to go to college in my house, but my
Right.
parents, my mom has a master's degree and my dad has a law degree. So it's like, well, it seems like a bachelor's is at least probably like low bar,
Right.
like that's the bar that we had to get over. And that isn't a low bar, because college isn't for everyone. College is hard, like, and not every job needs, a college career, like, or a college degree. Like what she was doing, it sounded like she was creating a lot of things. Like she was
Yeah,
an artist in a
craftsman.
lot of ways.
Craftswoman,
Like
yeah.
she might not need to go to college. And it wasn't, I
Mhm.
was not always 100% clear. I was like, what is his job again? Something hoity
He's
toity
a reporter
wannabe.
or something?
Oh, journalist. That's what it
Yeah,
was. And
journalist,
then
yeah.
he's like, I'm going to blog. And I'm like, why didn't you think of that before, bro? But,
Well, so 23 comes and he's not there. So she's just kind of partying with a friend. And then 24 comes and he brings a date who's
ooh.
half Swedish, half Australian. So that was pretty pretty exciting. And so she ends up getting pretty sloshed. And this is when Evie gives the Great Expectations talk about Miss Havisham. And she says to Kat, she says, I know what it's like to see the person you love with the person they've chosen, and it's not
Oh.
you. I wanted to hate your mother, but I saw the way he smiled at her. In my house, the calendar froze on Christmas Eve. The world has enough Havishams.
No. Well, the thing about it's like, he's 24. People, like, that's the other thing is like, when it's saying like, take the job or do this sort of thing, like, if you took the job and it didn't work out, you can still find another job. Like, if that isn't the thing for you, like, and I think though, people do get married young and that sort of thing. But I also think though, we know that statistics and what people are doing has changed. People are waiting to get married. They get married
Mm-hmm.
in their late 20s, things like that. So it's like,
Yeah.
I was like, is she the chosen one? Or is he still like trying on this career and this other life on for size, when
Well, the
it's not the
interesting,
life that he's
yeah.
wants or is going to end up in,
Well, and the interesting thing to me is that so she let the fact that in her eyes, her doing Christmas every day is being positive amongst the situation. She
probably not.
she looks at it as I'm gonna be happy because Christmas equals happiness all the time because I'm not happy. But is she really not being a Miss Havisham? I mean, if she is sort of just like Miss Havisham from Great Expectations, that Miss Havisham lived with sort of the bitterness of being left at the altar and she could never let it go. I mean, isn't having Christmas around you 24/7 kind of not that different?
I would agree. I think it's she sees it as she's labeling it as something positive because for her Christmas is a positive experience. But she has put her life on pause. Her life is in a standstill. It's like when, I don't know if people watch Saved by the Bell, the show from the 90s, and Zach would be like, time out.
Oh, right.
Would, pause everything around him. That's essentially what she's doing. And the issue is, okay, that might make you happy, but what else has she done to help herself get over the fact that the person that she's in love with has chosen someone else?
Yeah.
So do we see her dating other people? Does she have hobbies? Does she go to a book club? I think there's a whole host of healthy things to do, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having Christmas year round. If that's like your thing, then that's, I do think let's do the things that make us happy. Life is short. And I was just thinking, it's only September, but I love my Halloween decorations inside. I was like, I think I'm gonna put my Halloween decoration.
Yeah.
So we'll make my house fun. But here's the thing, that doesn't stop me from figuring out my problems, working through my problems, and figuring out my life so that I can truly, not that I'm putting up Halloween because I put my life on pause. I'm just saying that she has stunted her own growth relationally, and her life is paused. She's put everything on hold. But then in some ways, I'm positive she wasn't like, woohoo, Kat's mom has passed. But it's one of those things, by hanging around there, she helps out in another way. And maybe that's another way to help with it. But she needed to do more for herself to work through that issue.
I feel like
it ends up being fine for her in the end. But how many years has she missed out on having a life that she wanted?
I feel like there's not that big a difference between her and Miss Havisham that she thinks.
No,
I really don't.
I think she's mistaken or in denial. I will, just putting up a smile doesn't mean you're okay. That might be a way. Sometimes we fake it till we make it.
Well, the
that
smile
doesn't make it okay.
Well, and it's a constant reminder of the loss, which is not healthy. So I don't know. It's an interesting situation. I think there's some definite mental health care that's needed amongst all these people.
For sure. Well, and then it's let's just take the shots instead. That's not going to help either.
Yeah, that's only going to make it worse.
Sorry to tell you. You're taking shots. At a certain point, you're just going to think you live in the North Pole. You're too sloshed. Yeah. There's Christmas stuff everywhere. This is not the world that you live in, right? But again, I do think at the same time, the least of her problems is that she enjoys Christmas. There's so much other work she needs to do, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with having Christmas stuff out, except for the reason why it is out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
She's saying it makes her happy, but it's truly just delaying her from taking care of herself and her life.
Yeah. So she ends up leaving the house with some guy. I forget, it's Kyle or something like that. I can't remember.
I don't
but
remember
anyway,
either.
She leaves with some guy.
Brad or somebody. I don't know.
Just to try to make him jealous. And I guess she ends up dating this guy or something because
I think so.
For age 25, they broken up, and now this guy has proposed to someone else.
Yep. And you're the way they set it up, you thought she was engaged, and I was like, what? And then I was like, oh,
Yeah.
It's someone else.
And so her dad says, you dodged a bullet. And he says, I wish I was one of those dads on TV who knew what to say.
Yeah.
And and so this part was kind of weird because so Sam tells his wife, I guess, wife or girlfriend, I don't know if they're married yet, but anyway, tells her that he has to go to the States for a career defining interview. But it's really not a career defining interview. It's really just to help Kat through this separation or whatever.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, I don't
broken
know.
heart. And so the interview was a total lie. And yet supposedly he says something to the effect of my Rebecca, I think her name is, she says she knew I was coming and she was supportive of that. So there's some weird stuff going on there in that relationship.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. That part was a little strange.
Confusing. But yeah, I mean, it is hard to believe that he would fly all the way from Australia just because she broke up with this guy and to be there for Christmas. When he had missed other ones before. And again, like you said, you can call, you can Facebook, you can
there's so many
email.
things because that flight from Australia I hear is long.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not just like a pop over to, like a 2-hour flight.
Right.
Isn't it like 24 hours or something? It's like
I mean, they are in such denial. I mean, golly, if you're really willing to do that, then obviously, like, I would be very concerned if I had a boyfriend who was like, sorry, I have to go. I have to go to Australia. to be with my childhood friend who just broke up with his girlfriend.
With some guy I didn't even know she was dating because do we even talk when it's not Christmas? Right. We don't know.
So, but it's a really fun scene where they start dancing and they're doing kind of a tango type dance and to try to make this other guy, Kyle or whatever his name was, jealous.
Brad, who knows?
Brad.
Ben, I'm not sure.
And so then they all end up outside dancing. Tom and Evie are dancing. They're dancing. That was fun. A fun scene.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was like, oh, see this here is a party.
Yeah, that's right. So then 26 comes and they're playing karaoke and he is now broken up with Rebecca.
We knew she wasn't going to be around. I mean, at least I thought so. I was like, I saw her and I was like, yeah, it'll be nice knowing you. Do I even need to learn your name?
Yeah.
And much like Ben/Brad, I knew you weren't going to be around for a while.
Yeah. And it turns out that Rebecca called Kat basically drunk and
that was weird.
It's like, you're the one that sort of ruined our relationship or whatever. And because evidently Sam broke up with Rebecca and she calls Kat and wishes her luck. And so crazy. But
here's the thing. Can I just pause you for a second? What I think is interesting is between these Christmases, from what we can gather, Kat has talked more to this young lady than she has to Sam.
Right. Yeah. No, that's very true. Yeah. But we do get probably the cutest scene of the whole movie is when they end up sharing this jacket together.
Yeah, that was so funny.
It was so funny and so cute.
and just to give the visual, like, he has the jacket on and then she's standing in front of him and putting her arms and then zipping the jacket in front of her. So both of them are in the same jacket.
Yeah. Which if in a million years, I never would think to do that with a jacket. But like, I think I would have probably thought maybe each take an arm, maybe you could do that. I don't know how you share a jacket, but
you do it in shifts. You get 10 minutes and then I get 10 minutes, or we just walk back and we both get another coat. How about that?
But it's definitely one of the highlights of the movie. It's such a cute scene, and you can see them really
there's like a lot of bonding going on in that scene for sure.
Yeah. And so she takes him to the furniture warehouse, whatever, and she says to him, "You thought I was just a girl in an office."
Yeah.
And then he says something of, "Well, have you read anything that I've written?"
Yeah.
And
Fair.
this seems very unlikely to me. Like, I guarantee you, if I was pining for some guy, he was a writer, I would be reading everything that.
Well, the other thing is, like, what year is it? 25, 26? You don't know what she does.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. I wouldn't expect someone to listen to all my podcasts, but I would probably bet they'd listen to a couple, right? A couple episodes.
I mean,
or they at least know that I'm a teacher. Like, I would want to know, like, isn't that knowing, like, your job and career is only a portion of what your identity is, but it's still like, so how do you envision being together forever if you don't know what she does?
Yeah, that seemed very shady to me, because no, if I was
stuff, I don't really
if
know.
I was in love with a guy and he had a
Yes.
podcast about any topic, if it was about fishing, I would be listening to that podcast, because
every single time he came out with a new episode.
Absolutely. I'd be taking notes so that I what to say.
So you could talk to him about fishing.
Yes. I mean, come
on.
Listening
to other fishing podcasts. It becomes a whole thing.
They're not as good as you and your fishing podcast.
Exactly. I didn't know you were so into fishing. I am.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Just feels, especially when you're young like that, I think you would definitely put in. They need to put in a little more effort here.
Or even just, again, looking at each other's Instagram. Don't act like you don't have the internet.
Right.
Come on.
But they do have a cute little, I call it sort of DTR, defining the relationship. They have a little DTR in the foam of for the making furniture. There's a foam bucket, whatever you want to call it. And she says, I thought I knew everything about you, but I was wrong, and I'd like to change that. And he says, if I hurt you, I want you to know that I would never do that on purpose. And then they kiss outside, and she says, maybe don't wait a whole year next time, which is false, because then he does.
Wait, when does he wait the 5 years? Because isn't he gone for 5 years at some point too?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So after this next one he's gone for 5 years. So now, age 27, she's pretending to be sick.
Oh yeah.
And they're talking on the phone. She says, I have my life, you have yours. And they intersect for one night a year like Brigadoon. Which is very true.
I mean, it is.
Yeah. And so they argue back and forth on the phone. He comes over there and outside the door, and she says, I'm here for you every year. You're so insecure. You can't hold on to anything real. Actually, I'm not sure who says that, him or her, but it's true on both counts.
well, yeah. And I feel, isn't that when they get into their sort of like their fight?
Yeah, because Sam says, what are you doing to your dad? You're staying in this snow globe playing the dead mom card. So that was pretty harsh.
Oh, that's rough. Like, here's the thing. Her mom died. She can, not that she's playing any sort of card, but why not just leave that alone?
Mm-hmm. But it's hard because we haven't seen all of what she's behaving the whole rest of the year to know, is she, because she could be playing the dead mom card. We don't know.
That's why we need more information. But at the very least, what she's probably doing is sticking around to protect her dad.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to leave my dad because he already lost his wife.
We just found out in the previous year that she's very happy with her job and she's doing something really good. So it's a little bit confusing. And I think, regardless, probably not a wise thing to say.
I wouldn't say it. Well, here's the thing. What he might be saying is, like, you're good at what you do. You could probably do it somewhere bigger than this. You could have more of an impact. But again, we're at a point where we see them about as much as they see each other. So we we don't get that information.
Right. So then this is when we skip ahead 5 years. So we're in the present day in the world of this movie.
Yeah.
So she's now 32. So we started at 4. And so he is now proposing, which is very confusing. Ready to propose to her, but whatever. You kind of have to just go with it. And supposedly he sent Christmas cards that were apology cards. But yet he's proposing. What on earth? But and then he sees that she has a engagement ring, and so he's confused. And it's really, though, it's an engagement ring she calls up Evie and she talks to her. And then she has her dad come up and she basically says, I love you too. You're slow as molasses. You're never going to do anything. And so I give you my blessing, and she basically proposes to Evie for her dad.
Aw, that's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cute.
It was cute. It was a little weird, but it was cute weird. Yeah. And this is when Sam's dad says, Sam says, I'm trying to rewire myself. And it says that thing about that he was not built for contentment. And that's when his dad says, why is it the only time kids listen to their parents is when they shouldn't?
Yeah, he's like, I said that?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, you did.
Yeah, but I kind of think it's true, though, that he at least when he was young, that he was kind of self-defeating in so many ways. And I think that's what he was trying to say. But it's obviously a flaw that can be corrected, and you can get joy out of. And so
I don't like the language of wired, because I don't know that he came out of the womb like that. A lot of it comes down to socialization and reinforcement and other things like that. But like, if you had said, I've been really working on myself for the last 5 years, and now I've really, I found myself, or I found my purpose, I think that would have brought it more together. But again, how do you ignore someone essentially? Okay, you send apology cards once a year for 5 years, and then you're like, BT dubs, here's the engagement ring.
I know. Well, so she sees there's a path of crayons leading into the warehouse, and then he has created this whole like house for them, and evidently he bought a house or something, but it's this whole out of cardboard, this whole house showcasing all of the different years that they've been friends, and their different interests and skills and everything, and it was very, very cute. And then she ends up at the house, and he tells, I think, his parents, he says, she's the girl, she's always been the girl. And she gets there, and he's underneath the table. And I do think this proposal is so cute.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Yeah.
And I also like the way he's like, can we sort of figure this out together? Do you want to take this journey with me? It was a really, really good proposal.
I think that sounds like a partnership too, which I enjoy too.
Yeah. And so then they get engaged. But I do kind of feel like it's going to be at the very least, I think this relationship is going to be very volatile.
Yeah.
And because they have the history together, they'll be able to persevere. But I think that I anticipate counseling in their future.
Well, and the thing is, counseling can be very helpful for individuals and for relationships, but this is where I have an issue with the movie. Like, there are many times where I was like, I don't even know if they like each other. Like in the beginning, like the history of the part where they're supposed to be friends or whatever, I'm like, I think there needed to be more to show that they interacted, other than like, okay, we got the fake drunk on rum cake. Okay, that's kind of a fun, like, kids. But then he immediately goes into, we should stop pretending, like at 13. And I'm like, what? And then he becomes the hipster who seems too big for his britches, and that sort of thing. And so that's what I really enjoyed about Country Wedding, is that
Yeah.
they really developed that friendship. And I think here, kind of like what I was saying at the beginning, their friendship is assumed or expected, and there can be pressure from the family, the fact that, you know, in their own lives, not around Christmas, things aren't going the way that they are, and maybe it seems okay for that one night together. And I just like, some of that I think is like movie tropes and things like that. And like, there are a lot of cute parts of the movie. I do like the overtime. I just was like, but do you actually like each other? You don't know anything about each other.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
have cute moments like snowball fights and watching the Christmas movies. And so really what they're doing is living in Evie's paused life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not until Evie gets engaged to, I'm going to call him Luke, does their
Yeah.
life then move forward too. So
It's
really, Leah Thompson's the key to this whole movie.
I know. It's like Pip and Estella
Yeah.
together forever. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it's that functional of a relationship. It's cute, and I enjoyed the
Yeah.
movie. It's a lot of fun, but I don't think that they are necessarily all that great of a match, and so I think it's gonna be a challenge.
I have some ways that we can keep the cuteness of the movie, but we could sort of generate some ideas. I've already generated one.
Uh-huh.
Love around a week's worth of Christmas vacation.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
love
mean,
love over the lake house family vacation in July.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It does seem like almost it should have been a television series.
yeah. Oh,
And
I would have liked that. That
like,
would have been cool.
yeah.
Oh, I like that idea.
So you'd have or even if they had done it kind of similar to the 500 Days of Summer,
Yeah.
where you're kind of putting the pieces together of this. I mean, that's really actually not a very functional
No,
relationship, and
but
it's not supposed to be.
I show the end scene of that movie in my classes, and I don't
Yeah.
think this is a spoiler because we learn it 10 seconds into the movie.
Right. Yeah.
But the closure of their relationship is what that whole thing is about.
Right.
Like, it's
yeah.
essentially about how we can move on. We get closure, that we have people that we can think of fondly, and we can have relationships, but it can be the wrong moment, or we're not right for each other, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's almost like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's the Evie, and he got the closure, but she didn't.
Right.
She's like,
exactly.
it'll just be 500 days of Christmas versus 500 days of summer.
Yeah.
But,
so it's an interesting thing. And I think the fact that it is kind of novel, and it does has so many cute moments. I think
it has so much potential. Like, if they would have just changed a few things slightly, I think it would have been really good.
Yeah.
Establish their friendship early.
Yeah.
Give us a little more outside of Christmas. And I would have been like, yes, let's do this thing. But right now I'm like, I want to go back to that country wedding.
Yeah.
And who knew? Because I've loved the cookie crawl since day one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So yeah, it's no cookie crawl, let's be real.
Oh,
but
God.
yeah, I mean, I probably would give this one I don't know, like 3.25 out of 5.
Yeah, I was going to say like 3.5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right. Well, very good. Well, let us know what you think of Love at the Christmas Table, whether it's a favorite of yours, or and what you think of some of these themes. And it's very unique, and they tried something new, which I appreciate, especially in this genre. You don't see that often. And so we will be back next month.
Rachel first. Rachel, can I request something from listeners?
Yes, please.
I want to know not only what they think, but if they have ideas. So we said Christmas, or like love around Christmas vacation, or love at the lake house. If they have ideas of how they would make it a little bit more of what they would like to see. I want to hear that.
Yes, please let us know in the comment section or
Yes,
on
please.
Twitter. Let's figure it out.
I live for this. Yes, let's do it.
So, very good. So we will be back next month. We'll let you all know what we're talking about, what film we pick. It should be pretty fun. And where can people find you on your podcast and everything else?
Yes, Best Forevers Pod, which focuses on all of these different kinds of friendship themes, celebrating friendship, working through issues in friendship. I'm on Best Forevers Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and then the Best Forevers Pod is a closed Facebook group that has lots of cool stuff. Like we post, I have stories and memes and other things and discussions. And then Best Forevers, a podcast for kindred spirits, is the page on Facebook. And then I'm also Best Forevers Pod on Twitter. And you can find me personally, which I talk about TV and stuff a lot. And Rachel and I interact on Twitter a bit, is Dr. Alysa Lucas on Twitter. So that's my personal.
Great. I'll have that all in the description section. You should definitely check out the podcast. It's really, really good. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So make sure to check that out. And make sure you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod, all of our social media, iTunes, and YouTube. If you're listening on iTunes, you can give us your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate it. And if you are listening on YouTube, don't worry if we get another copyright strike, because we will fight it. We will fight it. But
yes, we will.
Subscribe to the channel and give us your thumbs up and comments. We really appreciate that. And and if you're interested, become a patron, please, to the channel. We have our patron group, and where we talk about these and many other films. And we also have giveaways that we do fairly regularly, so we try to make it worth your while. So definitely we'll take a look at that. There'll be information in the description. So we will talk to you all next month. Bye.